to China, and they were going to do a big spread about it right before COVID hit last year, about the Derby and how a lot of our horses are going to China right now. And I got quoted, and that was all pumped up about it, but that thing went kaput so fast. They never hit the courier or anything. But those are some of the things we do with the World Trade Center. We do some press stuff, but mostly consulting. But anyway, those are aerospace company. Now, most of you guys, I mean, does anybody work for American owned company? I do, but a lot of people out there, are working for foreign investments, like, guys like Lexmark. Eric, Lexmark is still owned by Chinese interests, aren't they? I know.
Yep.
Okay. I thought they
And
still were. Yeah.
yeah, and in Louisville, they just announced that there's a German copper company coming. I think they do copper rolled and something else. I don't quite know, but they're setting up their North America headquarters here in Louisville this year. So that's another one coming in.
That is, when I was a little bit younger, it seemed, and I used to work for one of these Japanese transplant companies. It seemed like every company out there supported Toyota was something North America that was, from Japan that came over, and that was a lot of our investment. But we've really, diversified over the years. I mean, some companies are owned. I did a little bit of work for a company for World Trade that was owned by a Mexican interest, and we get. I did a little work for a German company, and so it's all over. And we are, we've trekked a lot. Kentucky's done a great job, I think, of marketing itself, and great place to do business near interstates and airports, and I think this trend will continue in the future. So what do we do at the World Trade Center? Well, here's some stuff we do. Business and matchmaking. Say that you just started in exporting and you don't have much business and you want to break into Canada. Well, we can hook you up with a matchmaking service to make you make contacts in your industry. We can have you work with the Department of Commerce a little bit. We can get you to the right people to make you get some sales leads. And so we usually do a trade mission. Due to COVID, we haven't. But last trade mission we did was in Canada. We did one to Europe not too long ago too. On here you see a port mission. That was my favorite one we did. We went to the Savannah port in Georgia, and it was kind of a business trip / fun trip because Savannah's a great place. But we got to watch the ocean. We met with the port, and we got to watch the ocean containers, come into port and how they do stuff. And if you ever have a chance to do that, I'd recommend it. You don't have to care about trade. For my daughter would like to go do that, just to watch the ocean ships come into port and how they move them. And it's just really fascinating how commerce moves through our ports. And it's a great experience for anybody. I'd like to take some people down there. When you do ocean freight, it's not a science. Everybody's like, well, let's book an ocean container. How long is it going to take? Well, 20 days. Well, in 20 days, that's what you're guessing. I mean, it may be 25 days. It may be 22 days. It may, there's a lot of variance in there, and you can really see when you go to a port, the traffic and all the things that can happen to really make your lead time vary. And we get, in our business, we get so into detail. Well, it's going to be here. It's an exact science. But when you do ocean freight, you're kind of doing more of an art than science, I feel, a lot of times. So anyway, so that's some stuff we do. Now, this is the stuff I do. I'm a trade advisory. I guess they would call me an expert or service provider, excuse me. But, we'll go on to we'll go out to people's facilities and we'll do seminars for them. We'll do an export 101 and import 101. So say your company wants to start importing, we can do even a day or 2 day seminar about importing and how the U.S. government looks at your imports. I'm a licensed customs broker, so we'll go through and we'll say, hey, look, this is how you import more effectively. We'll look at all your products to see if you've got the right harmonized code on everything and you're compliant with the U.S. government. We'll do audits for you. We will, we'll do anything for import, export. We'll make sure that there's a lot of rules and regulations that people don't know for importing, exporting. We'll make sure you're compliant with the federal government regulations and you're good. We'll bless you. We'll do an audit for you. These are some of the services we do provide. And a lot of times we'll get some wild card calls. We'll get people who call in and say, "Hey, Dave, we just want to start export. We want to know how to do it." And I was like, "Oh gosh, it's your first one?" And you'd be surprised how easy it is. If you wanted to start a business for yourself as an individual, I could hook you up and we could get you exporting in no time. In the USA, we're a very export friendly country. But if in other countries, say you have something overseas, there's a lot of rules, and a lot of times you have to get import certificates and register with the government. If you want to export from the United States, basically you need a EIN business number and a little bit of know-how. You don't need to apply with the government for some kind of license, or you just need something that you can, a tax number. But we get a lot of little companies call us and want to get started with that, and we get a lot of cool calls from people who are. I had a really cool one about a year ago where a company had got in trouble with the Customs and Border Patrol, and they were going through some legal proceedings, and we got to intercede with them. And I was working with a lawyer at the time, and because she knew the laws, but she didn't know how customs brokers work and how customs work. And we got this company. It was in Lexington. Actually, we got them off the hook. They were getting fined about $400,000, and we were able to get them out of that fine. It was they had to go through a legal proceeding. It took a while, and I mean, I said they'd save $400,000, and who knows how much they paid the lawyer though too. Lawyers aren't cheap, but these are the kind of things we do. Anything with import export. If you run into problems, you have any questions, we're there to help. We'll refer you to other people. A lot of questions we get are hey, we just started someone here new, we're importing, we don't know what we're doing at all, can you come in and teach us what to do? Those are the kind of things we get. And we've got these seminars we'll put on and webinars of late. So but those are the kind of things we do as a trade advisory services. We always have someone who's wanting some kind of information, and most of it is pretty easy to provide, but a lot of it does take some time. And we're working on a project with a company from Lexington right now where they've got I don't know, probably 4,000 parts they want us to classify for customs, and that's what we're working on right now. So we do stuff like that for people. Now there's something called a trade education service, and there's a certification that we do every March. We're going to do it this March. It's going to be virtual, unfortunately, and we do it in September. And these are really cool if you have a chance to do it. If you're tight with FedEx or something, they might give you a freebie where you can come in and do it. But these are like 2-day seminar type of things, and you get a lot of trade experts who will tell you from from their perspective, individual areas. We do import export, we do a legal piece, we do a little bit of everything. We do payment terms. We have really cool marketing, how to market your products international. And in these certification programs, what we end up doing is you go to them, you take a test, and you get a designation. You get it looks like a trophy. They give you this giant plaque. It looks like you won the Kentucky Derby or something like that. But that's that's the international trade certification. And if you have a chance to do it, it's really neat. It's fun too. You make a lot of good contacts, and I would recommend it. We had it at Valvoline. You'll see the Valvoline piece. They're a big member for us. Last time we had our certification at Valvoline, they were really cool. Also, we do a little MBA program. We teach some MBA classes. I did a spot in Louisville not too long ago for U of L. These are more of the executive MBA type programs, and we have like a kind of a canned import export thing we do for them. It's a lot of fun. The students are great, and they ask a lot of cool questions, and we really have a lot of fun with that. Some pretty advanced people in that. So we do a spot for people, and mostly for U of L. We do a little bit of UK here and there, but mostly for U of L. And we're looking to expand that a little bit if we get a chance. So this is just some kind of impact. for the World Trade Center. We have 600 graduates for our trade certification program. That's a lot. That's a lot of people out there. We'll provide on-site training, and I mean, if you whatever a company needs, we'll do. You know, I did a training for 100 people, a webinar last year, and it was going to California, Michigan, and a place in Kentucky. And you know, it was really cool. It was a great use of their money as far as 100 people going to training. Come on, but it was we'll do whatever. I think I did that was on import export, and but it was a lot of fun. You know, our calculations we've done business with people who sell only $5,000 a year and we up to $100,000. That's what our savings in conducting trade audits, and we've helped people break into new markets too. So I think I've talked a little bit about everything, but you guys just know we're out there, and you can call me, contact me, and I'll set you up if you have an interest in doing it all. If you know anybody who's having a problem, if you see anybody who has an import export question, we're here to help. And we're kind of we deal a lot with the government too, and we can set you up with the right people if you have any questions at all. If you get into legal problems, we'll help you out. If you have a customs audit and you need someone to help you, we'll help you. But that's kind of what we do. And I've always worked for private businesses my whole life, but we're dealing with people like the Cabinet for Economic Development. We're dealing with the Department of Commerce, and we're dealing with all these government agencies, Kentucky Association of Manufacturers. All these organizations out there are out there as a resource for people who work in private organizations, and they're out there to help people. You'd be surprised how much free resources are out there for your company. If you run into problems that are trying to, like example, if you work for a small company too, if you've ever worked through Department of Economic Development in Frankfurt, there's a lot of grants out there for small companies. They were giving away $5,000 to anybody who import and export that were a small company a few years ago, and we took it at Bullard. Even at our size, we qualified at that time, and we were just shipping. We would just use that money to pay for some of our shipping costs, and so you'd be surprised how much. I don't know if it's free money. There's nothing for free, but they'll give you a grant, and you have to fill out a lot of paperwork. But there is a lot of opportunities out there for people to. So anyway, that's my spiel on World Trade Center. Just some, while we're here, I just want to get some opinions. One question that we always get for World Trade Center are these Section 301 tariffs, and that's mostly governs the tariffs, the China punitive tariffs that we had last year. That's the question I get more than anything is, Dave, hey, we got all these tariffs from China. We import all this stuff from China. How long is this going to last? So, and that's a tough question to answer. Is anybody? I mean, we're affected by these punitive tariffs, but the new administration coming in is non-committal right now. They say that they're going to, the Section 301 tariffs from China are still rolling, and they don't have a policy. They're trying to formulate what to do with these things. But it's the biggest problem we have, or not problem, but these big tariffs. We import a lot from China, like everybody is. Does anybody else out there have like a big problem with these 301 tariffs? I know some of you work in education and some other areas. At Lexmark, how's Eric? I don't know. Were y'all weren't really importing anything from China, were you? Or are you still?
We were. This is David. We certainly were.
Okay, gotcha.
And yeah, so one of the big changes we made over the last year, but we started doing regional manufacturing in Juarez, Mexico. So putting enough work content that from in Mexico, so it's a made in Mexico versus a made in China.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was
And that seems to be a trend, right? We've seen other companies that have near shored, not necessarily back into the U.S., but into either Canada or Mexico, so that they might be importing kits from China into Mexico or Canada, doing some assembly and value add in those countries sufficient so that you're importing it, as David just said, from Mexico or Canada. That seemed to be one way of addressing it.
Yeah, it's
That's sort of the same thing that was happening with that Section 232 with steel also.
wow. Yeah, steel was a big time. Yeah, and we're all, working in manufacturing, we're all wondering, we're going to move all this stuff and then they're going to cancel the tariffs. And did we do this in vain? We don't know. And that's a question we get. And I, always get some wild card questions. Like I had this one company that was, well, they were importing everything from Vietnam, but actually the country of origin was China, and it was just like passing through Vietnam. And that was a problem. Are those susceptible to the Section 301 tariffs? Of course they are, right? I mean, the origin's China, even if they come through a different country. Those are the kind of questions we get. We do country of origins for people, designations, and but it is a big issue right now. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping the new administration will make a statement. Hey, we're going to keep these. Or, I mean, maybe that's an impossible ask, but for people who work in manufacturing, it's just really hard for us to, make a good game plan if we're not sure if these are gonna hang around for a while. We moved some stuff overseas. Our problem, I work for a company that does, they do these, they look like moon suits, and they have like respirators. And during COVID, we couldn't sell these fast enough, and our parts came from China. So, I mean, it was kind of a perfect storm for us. We couldn't move anything because these products are registered with federal government. And, our tariff expense last year was off the charts, but, we were trying to get a lot of it back through like a drawback program for everything we exported. And we can do that, but the federal government's so backed up on drawback right now because everybody was bringing all this stuff in from China, and then they're exporting it back out, and they're claiming drawback, and they didn't have the resources to handle all this stuff. But it's kind of this is one of the big hot areas for us, and who knows what's going to happen, but it makes life interesting. And we get questions, how can you get out of a Section 301 tariff? And you can petition the federal government, and there's a list of people who have a lot of, you have to have a pretty good case. If you have a product, and you're unsure of it, World Trade can help you, but there is a database that the federal government keeps of protests, and we're all in this together. So if you need help on finding out if your product is a Section 301, we could help you out on that too. But it is a big deal, and it's kind of dominated manufacturers and what we do for the last year and a half or so.
So Steve, you mentioned, I think it was 232 for steel. Is that still a big deal?
Massive.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just tied up our compliance department in fits. So, and there seems to be no end in sight at this point. I mean, yeah, you can slow things down on the steel, but then they applied it to aluminum, and then it just keeps cascading. And yes, you can localize your material, but it turns out that that's not giving you the volume that you needed from before. So we're still struggling with it. I'm not connected directly with that department, but I feel their pain.
Yeah, we ran into similar things, I'm going to guess about 15 years ago with the Ross weed, which was both, the reduction of hazardous substances and all that meant with dealing with Europe, and then the China Ross, which was even worse than that. And that meant that we had to resource a lot of materials. And so whether it's tariffs or other rules, we're affected by it. And I would think World Trade Center is someplace that can help you with some of those concepts.
Yeah.
I'm taking
thanks.
notes.
Yeah. I mean, we could help you out. Shoot me an email, and we'll do a little bit of work for you. We, I mean, these tariffs have, it's kind of dominated what we do, but it changed how we do our operations, and just something we're gonna be with for a little while. So that's one thing. Also, I put this little slide together. Section 3, it's a domino effect. So if you guys, one thing we get it's almost kind of funny, but it's not, is there's a class action lawsuit. I don't know if you've heard, where lawyers are trying to get companies to sue. You can't, I don't know if that's the right word. It's like an administrative proceeding. They'll ask you for $10,000 to join an administrative proceeding because they're trying to lobby the government and get all these Section 301 tariffs unconstitutional, and then you would get a refund of all your Section 301 tariffs. So I've got a handful of companies ask us, should we pay the $10,000 to these companies if we can join these administrative proceedings, and then we could get our Class 301 Section 301 tariffs refunded to us, and I don't know if we really have a formal position on that. My personal position is I think it's just the money that you're throwing away. I mean, if $10,000 is nothing to your company, it's like buying a lottery ticket to me. I mean, the odds of coming through and getting some ruling like that where the federal government's going to refund everybody's tariffs, I mean, gee whiz. I mean, you'd have to get a pretty good situation for that to happen. My personal recommendation is no, but if someone wants to do it, go for it if you got the cash. But I don't know. That's one thing we get. Let's see here. Oh, country of origin claims, drawback claims. So there's a big domino effect. When these Section 301s hit, there was all kinds of, other factors that hit. One thing right now is you guys that are in logistics and transportation like me, there is a massive need to export products out of here because we're getting a lot of imports in, even with Section 301. But some of your big providers are giving us the best rates I've ever seen from 20 years of being in logistics and shipping stuff out of here. I'm getting rates that are killing it. I mean, I'm getting rates to Europe that are just a third of what they used to be for exports because all these planes are coming in, they're landing, and they got nothing to go back in. And so right now there's like a really big trade imbalance. Even with these Section 301s, China stuff is coming in like crazy right now and through the Far East. Anyway, just a observation. Last year we did a lot of training sessions on USMCA, NAFTA, and it's really similar to NAFTA, but we would do a spot or two on how you fill out your paperwork and how to do a country of origin and all that stuff. So I thought it went really well. I did an on-site in Louisville for this company where we went through and filled out paperwork and showed them the exact details. And, stuff like that, I think is time well spent. Make sure you're compliant. And, but those are the two big things in trade that happened last year for us. And we did a lot of consulting on but let's see. So here's what we get a lot is just how to get started. There's so many little companies out there that if we can hold their hand, that's probably the wrong word, but we can get you started real easy. And when I started out with Bullard 20 years ago, I mean, we imported and exported very little. And so, we've had a chance to kind of make a lot of mistakes. So we know what not to do, it seems like. So I hate to see these little companies go through that learning curve where they make some pretty brutal mistakes. And you'd be surprised at how easy it is to save some money if you know how to set up the right harmonized code, how to pick the right shipping method. And there's so many traps with duties and taxes. And it is a pretty complex environment in shipping. And like, Eric and David working for Lexmark, I mean, you guys are running a pretty complex worldwide business that, hey, if you can get a different code or the right code, you can save the company a lot of money. So anyway, landed costs, we get that all the time. You guys, if you're not in the trade business, you'd be surprised. You ship something to Brazil, the duties and tax rate is probably 60%. You import something in here to the United States, it's 2.3% or something like here for the same good. It's crazy, how the world changes and how when you export to some country, it's 30%. I mean, they can't buy your product because it's too big in duties and taxes. But, some other country, it's free. So we help with free trade, and there's a lot of free trade agreements we can help companies take advantage of. So it's kind of eye-opening to a lot of people. So a lot of times people put deals together fast. Your salespeople are out there, they're aggressive, they're great. They put a deal together because they love it, but they don't know kind of the cost behind it. And that's when they get into trouble. And And then you get in, well, what are the terms of that? Well, we don't know. All our terms are this. Well, you got to pay for even the smallest details. You got to pay for duties and taxes. You got to pay uh, for your, I don't know, your export classification, and people don't know some of the legal ramifications. When you export something of any magnitude at all, you have to report it to the federal government. You have to send a message to the federal government. And in essence, they send you permission to export it because they're tracking your exports. No matter if I was wanting to sell 3,000 Papa John's pizzas to Mexico, I would have to file with the federal government to do that. And it's really easy to do. And it sounds like a big deal, but the federal government's out there and they're tracking our transactions of any magnitude, all for statistical purposes. But it's really eye-opening. And you guys who haven't had a chance to work in trade, a lot of our folks out there have no idea how all these things are put together. And it's fascinating to me. I'm a little bit of a nerd, but it's really cool. And that's what we do. So, if you ever need me for anything, call me. You can, I work at Bullard. You can call me, email me. Love to talk trade with anybody. Having a problem, shoot some stuff at me. I'll probably ask you a few questions and we'll see if we can help you out. You might help me out a little bit too, who knows, but, this is something we love to do and it's fun. I work a full-time gig, but this is the fun part of our job is helping people out and working together. So,
David, let me ask you a question just to open up so anybody else can ask it. But what about free trade zones? What do we have here in Kentucky for public or private free trade zones that people can use both for import and remanufacturing and so forth and so on?
Man, that is an awesome question. I had a slide and I took it out because I didn't think anybody would be interested in that. Yeah, there's a few people who have them. In Lexington, there's not that many people who have them. It's the automotive folks have them, like a Toyota. And how a free trade zone works in your company, not with getting into too much detail, is you get something in, and like Eric said, you could remanufacture, you can do it, but then you export it out, and you never have to pay duties and taxes on it at all. So if you say you had an operation going where you bought some stuff from China, you do some manufacturing with it, and then you send it on to Canada, you never have to pay the duties. You wouldn't have to pay your 301 duties because you're getting rid of that stuff and you're sending it on to Canada. So that's kind of a simple way of looking at it. There's a lot of rules and regulations that go along with it. You have to be like a bonded type situation. And some of your bigger companies, there used to be a company that Dave may remember them back in the day. We used to do a lot of stuff with Apex in Maysville. And Emerson, there was a company next to them, had a big free trade zone. I can't remember their name, but
so do people like UPS operate a free trade zone that people can participate in or not?
It's people have always set them up by themselves. That's something the trade center can help people with, but they if they do, I'm not familiar with it. I've not hit that side of their business. Not to say they don't, but usually it's these big multinational companies and they have a specific line that they're doing, and it's really great. I mean, the problem with it's such a hassle to pay your duties and taxes and have to claim them back, and it can take up to a year to get your duties and taxes back. If you don't have to pay them, then it can be a big advantage. Now, some people say, hey, if we've got a free trade zone, we don't have to pay duties and taxes at all. Well, that's not the case. You have to be exporting it back or doing a remanufacturing operation. So it's got to make sense for your business to do it. Most of your business is out there, unless they export on a scale. And by the time you have to pretty much hire a full-time person to handle the paperwork and make sure you're compliant. The closest one we have is TMMK up here in Georgetown that I know. And I mean, for Lexmark or something, it may be worth looking at if you guys don't have one. But it does take some significant work. But it's a great deal.
I don't know if Lexmark has one. David, do you know? I think we used to do it through our 3PLs, but
yeah, 3PL actually in South Haven, Mississippi just became one last year.
Right.
Okay. As well as our manufacturing operation in Colorado. And it was all around this tariff mitigation. Right?
Oh.
That was an extra step for us to mitigate even further.
Pretty clever move right there. Yeah. Yeah. But that's a good strategy. Yeah. I wish I left my slide in because I had a map of it and it had all the like a map I had of the aerospace. It had all the places that have a free trade in Kentucky, free trade center. So that would have been cool. Well,
I know that when I lived up in Rochester, New York, Xerox had a free trade zone, and they would import machines from Japan and China, and they would only export them to the U. They would move them to their FTZ in the greater Rochester area, and then only remove them when they were actually sold. So they only paid their duties when they actually were moving them in country. So that was an interesting approach that they took for it.
You can defer your duties. Yeah. It's I think and someone had mentioned, I think the liquor companies here have that kind of stuff too. I mean, they're like your Jim Beams, and Jim Beam might have one in Frankfurt. I'm not sure. I don't know about Makers and wherever they are now. But anyway, yeah, good question though. Interesting. Yeah, we don't have one at Buller. We really don't have a need for one for what we do on our scale. But man, I'd love to get involved in something like that. I think it's a great, clever way to do things, and Lexmark at that scale, it makes sense.
Dave, speaking of the beverage industry, liquor industry, are you guys seeing a lot of those businesses, especially the craft levels that are in Kentucky, engaging with you guys?
That's a good question.
A lot of small ones that I expect they're going to be exporting.
That is a really cool question. Yeah, I've got someone on my list right now, and they're out of Louisville to call, and it's just what you had mentioned. It's a craft beer maker who's just exploded, and they want to start exporting to the EU, and they need a little help getting set up. And I just, I think we'll see more of that because the liquor industry was doing really good. I haven't heard much from them in a while, but I think that's an area of growth. We have a client that's in Louisville that they're one of our better companies. I haven't dealt with them personally yet. And they do, I'm getting older. I can't remember anything. In Frankfurt, they have my hometown, they have a place in there. I can't remember the name. They've got that place downtown. It used to be Ancient Age, but it's something else now. Anyway, that's someone who, they do a lot of the importing, exporting, and that's a way for growth. We have them, but we haven't had anybody else that I know. And that craft beer industry is a wave of the future and growth. And this company that I'm going to call back, I just haven't got to it yet, is, their question is just a basic one-on-one. Hey, how do we get started? We've got someone who wants to buy our product in the UK. And what I'll go through is, I've got some contacts over there, but I'll go through and I'll read the regs and we'll see what their, we'll pull some stuff about what their FDA version of their FDA has to say and make a few phone calls and try to get them set up. But that is a wave of the future, I think, for Kentucky. It's a great industry.
Okay. So let's open this up to questions. If anybody else has questions that they'd like to bring up at this point, please unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah, this is Dave McGee. I was curious about the costs. What do you charge?
Dave, it just varies. We do it by job. I mean, we don't. It's almost nothing really. It seems like to me, but it is based on the job. If you have an inquiry or a question, if you call me and say, "Hey, Dave, we need a harmonized code for something, or how do you get set up?" I mean, I'll do it for a freebie. No big deal on something like that, especially. But if you want to do a seminar or 2-day seminar, or if you want to do a class like a webinar or something, I did a 4-hour webinar on how to classify your codes. I think we did it for, I don't know, maybe $200 or $300. It wasn't very much, but it just varies by the job. And really what most people do anymore is they become a member of the World Trade Center. These are my favorite companies. They become a member and they may pay like $1,000 a year. And what that gives them is they get like 20 hours of free time where they can ask anything and we'll do projects for them. And, if they want to do a seminar or something like that, I'll do a seminar for them. But, but I think, we don't make money off this kind of stuff almost. It's just, and we're not supposed to make money. We're a nonprofit. We're just trying to, promote trade, but that's, it varies based on the job though.
Anyone else have questions? Okay, well, Dave, I'd like to thank you for helping us with this today, and I hope somebody will reach out to you. And I know I've always found it interesting, and I've had the opportunity to do imports and exports over 40 years of my career, although not with your expertise. I always employed people to, like Schenkers or some of those other big outfits, to take care of some of those details for us. Again, a reminder, on March 10th, we'll have another webinar meeting, but this will be more on how do we eliminate friction in processes by eliminating emails. And then on April 8th, again, we'll be together with our colleagues from the management accounting group. And Gary Conkins will be talking to us about analytics. And unless anybody's got any questions or comments that they'd like to make now, we'll give you back about 15 minutes of your time. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, David.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys. I
much.
really appreciate it. My pleasure. Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and have a good night.
Yeah.